before Bitcoin, even QNT. What do I have to back that up? Let's go ahead and dive into the material. Here we go. Starting things off from this gentleman. Nice little intro to get things going on. And it comes from the one and only Just a Tech Guy. And it's been probably over a year since I've cited anything from him. I thought I'd bring it up to you because I think it's really, really important to get into the weeds of why all this matters. And as you can see, there's a story behind the Quant network. But basically, when I got into it, in this preface from Medium, Gilbert Verdian, the founder and CEO of Quant Network, as we know, has always been concerned about the insecurity of the internet's architecture. He believed that the protocols and architecture of the internet were designed without security in mind for the 1950s, resulting in Arpanet. In 1997, he envisioned a new inter-network, the Neo network, which is called NN, that would sit alongside the internet and provide a secure way to transact money. Now, maybe some of you guys know about this already. And Gilbert has, of course, left us breadcrumbs trying to give us these little Easter eggs, if you will. But some people have not uncovered everything. I'm giving you a little taste. Stick around for this. I have uncovered what I consider the MOBA, the Moab, I should say, the mother of all bombshells. I'm not trying to hype it up. You will see in the research, it will hype itself up. As we get more into this, check this out. What is Hashcash 2002 from the Bitcoin white paper? Hashcash is a proof of work system introduced by Adam back in 1997, and it was referenced in the Bitcoin white paper as part of the mechanism to prevent spam and denial of services attacks. In the context of Bitcoin, it serves as a way to secure the network by requiring miners to perform computational work, finding a valid hash to create new blocks and validate transactions. Been there, done that. Emphasis on 1997. As we get more into this outline, here's a citation from R3. What is a network of regulated networks, and why is it important for the future of DLT innovation? This comes from Richard G. Brown, CTO over at R3. One of the main advantages of the concept of a network of regulated networks is that you will always choose the right network and network, for example, as it plays on a little bit more, knowing that these things will be able to interoperate between the public and, of course, the private world. So we jump over here to this particular citation reference from usg.edu/Galileo, mentions many years ago about a network of networks. The simplest way of explaining the internet is to call it, quote, the network of networks. It's the connection of computer networks around the world into one entity, so to speak. It's not one big computer, but rather numerous networked computers connected together. And as we get further down, remember that reference to, for example, Arpanet? Well, this is more of an interconnected, world that went further than Arpanet. And of course, as you see here, visual network of connections in North America. As we get more into this, I thought this was kind of funny in a way, but, nonetheless, I'll share it with you guys. So it says Gil. As we know, there's Gilbert Verdian. Galileo interconnected libraries. You won't find hip clothing or sexy lingerie here, but Gil is catalog. All the books and other items a library has to offer can be found in this interconnected electronic catalog. How many times have we heard Gilbert Verdian be referred to as Gil? Kind of a funny little analogy. More importantly, even Galileo. You ever wonder why there's projects like Galileo Protocol, Leo X, and so on? First, for example, retail project, I guess you could say, that was birthed out of ISO TC 307, but more importantly, QRC 720, right? And as we get more into this, look at this. Rockefeller Foundation, the power of network of networks. As you see right here, we get further down into it. What does it mention? From Rockefeller. Foundational to the Pandemic Prevention Institute is the vision of a network of networks that connects a range of stakeholders and enables entities across the globe to connect and contribute traditional and non-traditional data in distinct and innovative ways to solve a global health problem. Our networks are built on collaborations that connect data to derive actionable insights. As we get further into the outline, you will see a reference to the one and only Lara Verdian, wife of Gilbert Verdian. As we know, she's very well connected to the health industry. Check this out. This also gets good because we mentioned the whole thing about network of networks. Digital asset network of networks, cross-network interoperability, access through ODAP, GWs, interoperate existing networks, complement existing systems, identify, route, and find digital assets, issuers, custodians, regulatory access for compliance, cross-border and cross-network to network for private and controlled transactions. And as you see here, all these ones are encompassing all this. And you see regulated securities network, corporate DLT, domestic real-time payments network, and even public permission blockchains. But citation, bottom right, MIT Connection Science. And of course, you see trade. We know the whole thing with XDC, permissionless blockchains, and of course, domestic capital markets, FMI. And that's where it's at. And as we get more into it, some other things that really need to be pounded home, because API and orchestration layer. The project implemented a set of 14 foundational capabilities and 5 business applications that utilize the experimentation platform to achieve a wide array of operations, interoperating across different forms of money. And back to this old video, great screenshot, because as you see here, Quant technologies help organizations safely and seamlessly take full advantage of blockchain tech. Earlier, I mentioned the whole thing about Arpanet. Arpanet adopted TCP/IP on January 1st, 1983. And from there, researchers began to assemble the network of networks that became the modern internet. The online world then took on a more recognizable form in 1990 when computer scientist Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web. Look what it says on the very bottom. You see Arpanet builds the network of networks. And so it began, the Internet Big Bang. It was a top-down release of the tech. And what we have also from that same gentleman that did that interview from a few years ago? The new web is matrix of blockchains. And we're going to definitely elaborate with a key finding, yes, that I stumbled upon. And I did do a search on X to see if anybody else stumbled upon it, and the answer was no. So the new web, Quant being part of that, the matrix of blockchains that enable transfer and the value of trust, again, it'll be worth sticking around. Trust me on this particular one. You want to stick around. As you see right here, when we bring up the whole thing of matrix, these bad guys, if you will, are called sentinels. Don't ever forget about that part, because it's going to play a key role into the outline. As we get more into this, this is from Matrix Wiki. Approximately 6 centuries later, only a handful of free humans remained to resist the sentients. Surrounding the city, as in, I imagine, Zion, was an immense armada of crab-like defenders, which activated whenever unauthorized hovercrafts approached. In the central part of the city housed Deus Ex Machina, who leads all sentient activities. On 2670 approximated, Neo confronted Deus Ex Machina and forged a truce in exchange for stopping the virus. Smith from devastating sentient kind, this finally ended the multi-century spanning machine war. But what do you see? It says Neo in 01. And as we get more into it, this gets really interesting. Gilbert Verdian says, are we coincidentally heading down this path with 01.ai. Quote, artificial intelligence exponentially grew in 01 and eventually led to the creation of newer, more advanced AI, reaching its technological singularity. And of course, he even references Matrix fandom, that one I just showed with you guys. And below that, what do you see? November 5th, 2023, venture capitalist and author Kai-Fu Lee has built an AI startup in China that's worth $1 billion after less than 8 months. How many times have you heard Gilbert Verdian referencing the overledger with projects getting it done in less than a year? As we get more into this, I mentioned the whole thing of o1.ai. As you see right here, when we pull this up, it links you over to this site. And on this site, you see that's got this thing called Wanzi, personal AI workplace to help you find, read, and create certain things. But the API platform, and more importantly, how ye large global SOTA LLM has like these rankings that date back to May of this year. And you see it's open source. And more importantly, you see that it has all sorts of things here that might be very well worth pointing out. But this was what caught my attention. And that is they make this accessible and beneficial to everyone. And it goes on to mention that 01.ai has a vision. AI will effectively enhance human productivity, I should say, hence creating significant economic and societal values. Realizing O1 AI's aspiration of, quote, human plus AI, that technology empowers and amplifies our mankind. We hope to be able to contribute to this new AI 2.0 ecosystem. As you get more into this, it gets back to the whole thing of the Matrix Wiki. And what you see here, it says specifically, banished from humanity, the machines sought to refuge in their own promised land. They settled in the cradle of human civilization, and thus a new nation was born. Think about that for a second. A place the machines could call home, a place they could raise their descendants, and they christened the nation 01. O1, sometimes labeled 01, also referred to by humans as the sentient city, aka the machine city, is the home and capital sovereignty of sentience. Located in the Middle East, close to Mesopotamia, the cradle of human civilization, aka Fertile Crescent, was created during the Second Renaissance, when humanity spurned the pleas of artificial intelligence to become equal partners with humanity with the same desired rights and freedoms. As a safe haven for sentient kind, O1 became a prosperous and peaceful city, developing technologies such as the innovative hoverpad, commercial air vehicle Versa Tran, and selling them to the nations of humanity. Of course, you can read more about that if you choose to do so. As we get more into this, here's what counts. TCP/IP allowed isolated networks to communicate with one another. Overledger does the same thing for blockchains, allowing developers and enterprises to build the Internet of Trust. And you see how this all came together, 1993 to 2018. So the Internet of Trust, a network of interconnected distributed networks to transact value. Well, like it says, today with Quant Overledger back in 2018, they have the potential to deliver the web across interconnected distributed networks. As with the inception of the internet in 1993, we are at the start of something big. Let's take you over to this. Really interesting to see this, dating back from 2019. Gilbert Verdian cracking World War II codes at Bletchley with Enigma machine. And what do you see here? You see Gilbert, kind of proud about that. And you get more into it. There's the Enigma machine. More importantly, wow, there's a difference between apparently hackers and crackers. No, I'm not talking about the wrong thing you should refer to white people as. Heck, I'm half white. I've never been called that. But, no, I'm not talking about that. Crackers as in cracking the code. As we get more into this, constant references about, for example, the Matrix. Gilbert Verdian seems to be very obsessed with the Matrix. Why am I showing this to you? It's going to get really good. Again, stick around. It's all going to connect, just like the Matrix. Homage to the 20-year anniversary of the Matrix. He posted that April 2nd, 2019. Clearly, he's a huge fan of the Matrix. And as you see here, it could be a little bit hard to blow that up, so I'm just going to zoom in a little bit more. It's kind of blurry. The protocols and architecture of the internet today was designed without security in mind from the 1950s, resulting in Arpanet. Back to the reference from the intro, from the one and only Just a Tech Guy. But what's important is to understand the whole thing that resulted in Arpanet. They never envisioned the networks to be used in the way we do today. I call this new inner network the Neo network, NN, in 1997. Again, before Bitcoin. Okay. Why is this important? Well, as we get more into even that, here's another reference. August 5th, 2020, Gilbert Verdian once again. Join the DLT interoperability workshop from this particular outfit called the International Telecommunication Union. It's a UN agency for digital tech, connecting the world through spectrum management, brokering, standards, plus bridging the digital divide. Secretary General is this particular person. And getting more into that, you'll see what that opens up there because it's Doreen Bogdan Martin. And she's a tech enthusiast turning the digital future for all dream into reality. Of course, stationed in Geneva, Switzerland. She explained blockchain more than enough times. She's been in enough interviews more than enough times. But we zoom in, you'll see here from MIT, the internet diagram. And more importantly, it's actually not the internet diagram, it's the datagram, multiple routes. Back to that reference about Arpanet. And as you see, as we go to the middle even, you see these routes and how, routing basically works. I mean, if you're a gamer, you always want to have the lowest ping. If anything, you would like to have a zero ping, but in reality, you're not going to have a zero ping unless you're the host. So that route, you want the best route possible, right? You want the best connection if possible. But as you see, dating back to 1971, originally with Arpanet and so on, you see how this all blossomed to be a network that talks to each other through, for example, network using RIP routing. And you see, for example, autonomous systems and how it all talks to each other. But again, the MIT reference. Because what's important is understanding the lessons learned from internet architecture. Like it says, interoperability, fundamental to survivability. View each blockchain as a bounded and independent system. Autonomous systems, for example, and more importantly, the paradigm, standardized basic transactions format, alternative business models, peering agreements. And again, cited from MIT Connection. And what do you see on the bottom? Pairing between blockchains. And again, we talk about the whole thing about a peer-to-peer cash system with Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer financial system with Quant Network. That's what I'm trying to share with you. All right. It's going to get really good, but more importantly is understanding some of the big connections. Thank you, MicroZiet, for publishing this piece of history. Why is that important? Well, what do you see? Apple, Microsoft, and all these other particular ones, Commodore. Shout out to all you guys that had a Commodore 64 back in the day. But this key thing that he posts about 31337 nostalgia. If you're a gamer, you know about this. It's being what's referred to as an uber elite hacker or whatever, right? Like, you're elite. That's the numerical way of spelling it. But this statement from Gilbert about trillions of industries today are started this way. And what's his reference? Well, you see it. The gold rush from MicroZiet. This is history. And as you see also here, talks about homebrew computer club, talks about open letter to hobbyists, futuristic software models. For example, in 1976, the head of Microsoft drafted the second and final speech. In desperation, Bill Gates went public and addressed relevant media outlets. Speech was about the future software sales. Nobody, for the most part, believed him at the time, but as it blossomed, boy, did it ever. Microsoft and Apple are a standard in themselves. And of course, more references to the history of how all this came together. But if anything, Apple, for example, Microsoft, we're talking about big, huge companies. Last I checked, Apple is worth over $1 trillion. So this part about hacker versus cracker, again, understanding what is the main difference. Well, here it gets good. Because back to this, Gilbert Verdian and this highlight from his tweet. As I get more into it, let's pull up this screen. This is from a thing called Hacker Society, and I decided to Google this and look more into it. It says it's by Gilbert Verdian. Interesting. In the past, there have been many papers and articles regarding hackers. Most of these have been written For example, by journalists, based on secondary information, by hackers who provide distinguish, or I should say, to prove and distinguish themselves from other hackers and the electronic underground. Rarely does the media explain the ethics, codes, rules, regulations that govern this mysterious society, a society that exists known solely amongst the underground. The professional approach has not been taken in analyzing this mysterious subculture. So it gets really into it. But again, back to the whole reference of Neo. As we know, Neo was a uber elite hacker. But more importantly, he cracked some codes. That's the point I want you guys to take away from this. And of course, there's this whole thing about a hacker dictionary. But back to the whole thing about the elites, and more importantly, when we talk about in the financial system, what are the elites doing? Well, what about this? What are the elite hackers, crackers doing? And as you see here, references to some of this stuff. But more importantly, is understanding that when you get more into this, they talk about on the very bottom a constant improvement and dissatisfaction. The elite hacker is able to definitely apply the knowledge to change and better this environment. Should he find a flaw in an operating system or software, he will sit down and trace the roots of the flaw, its cause, and oftentimes deliver a possible solution. Keep in mind, Gilbert Verdian on his resume is an ethical hacker, one of the best ones out there. All right. This is a bombshell that you've been waiting for, and I'm going to show you a little bit more. This is not the only thing, but boy, oh boy, I stumbled upon this on accident. No, I did not get this from Quant Papa. And Quant Papa, if you're listening, this is my own discovery that I found out. So no panic here. But I decided to go to the Wayback Time Machine. And it bothered me about this whole thing of, Gilbert Verdian and the whole thing of, Neo. And I said to myself, we went to like the wiki fan pages and whatnot. And more importantly, it was like, I wonder if there's like I don't know, some kind of neo.com and to find out more information. And then kind of ran across a problem with that. So I did neo.net, same problems. And I thought to myself, there's other extensions. What about if I put neo, for example, neo.net, but like a .au? I mean, Gilbert Verdian's from, Australia. And guess what? This is something that came up. And I thought, wow, what the heck is this? And so I saw timestamps that dated back to, for example, 2001. Check this out. Let's full screen this. This is really interesting. Because as you see here, it's like, what does that say? Yeah, you see it plain as day. You see the Quant logo, for crying out loud. And this is that, back in 2001. Are you kidding me? As you see, it's really, really interesting because on this timestamp, November 28th of 2001, it says Neo Corporation, the new age of IT security. But more importantly, that is the darn Quant logo, for crying out loud. So what in the world is this? And why am I bringing it to you guys? Well, it goes on to mention that they believe in a close client relationship to provide latest security solutions. By growing together and change the market and changing, we are able to provide our latest to clients, so on and so forth, right? So I was like, well, I got to get a more of a stamp, a capture from the Wayback Time Machine that would show a little bit more. There's got to be something. So I went through all the, like with a fine-tooth comb through the haystack, if you will. And man, this is what I uncovered. Look at this. If you go to Wayback Time Machine and you go to neo.net.au/neo_portfolio_en.pdf, this pulls up. And from the screen capture of June 3rd, 2001. I mean, technically anybody could do this, but I didn't see on X that anybody did. Call it a bombshell, call it the mother of all, I don't know, call it a Moab, I don't know. But it is what it is. That, plain as day, is the Quant logo, is it not? And more importantly, look what it says. Neo Corporation, the new age of IT security. Company profile, complete security service. Quote, 90% of organizations with a connection to the internet rated their security as poor. Neo is the short and long-term solution to system security, being only one of a few companies in Australia to offer specialized security services that challenge and demonstrate the vulnerabilities and misconfigurations of supposed secure software solutions provided by vendors. Conventional security measures by product vendors only entail the installation and support of software, whereas Neo tests the validity and weaknesses of those security claims. Where Neo differs to offer to other defense strategies, is the application and long-term sustainment of a customized system audit. Remember how we talked about Quant Authorize? Tailored to find security weaknesses in any operating system or network infrastructure. A range of one-off system tests and security-specific projects are also available. Neo's team of specialized security professionals are dedicated to providing a long-term security edge against computer crime, updating the client's infrastructure in real time to offer ongoing protection against any new developments in the IT industry or the computer underground. Back to that whole thing about hackers of the underground, right? So, really interesting to see this, and more importantly, to see this posted all the way back in June 3rd of 2001. And basically speaking, you're looking at what, 8 years before the Bitcoin white paper? So yeah, this is valid. Quant before Bitcoin. Unbelievable, right? And as you get more into it, I mean, it talks about some of the, the services and, system audits, system hardening implementation, all this stuff that looking to do, what does it say on the bottom? Implementing security has become has become so complicated, no single technology will secure your network. That's an old quotation, but really, really interesting to see some of these things. All right, so with that said, here's a little clue moving forward. Don't forget the part that I shared in regards to Neo. You're going to see how this ages so incredibly well because, again, look what it says. Neo Corporation, the new age of IT security. In plain as day, that's the Quant logo. I don't care what anybody says. I stand by the research. All right. For all those that are wondering, when did The Matrix, the original one, come out? March 31st, 1999. So roughly like a little over 2.5 years after the Matrix movie. But again, the talk of all this dating back to 1997. And what you see here in regards to Gilbert Verdian, another quotation from technology was not there in 1997 to create a more secure internet to complement the existing one. Firewalls were mainly routers with ACL. Security was treated as part of networking, wanted to bridge the details existing internet with a more secure enclave. Look at this. Decided the best way was to have a career in security and wait for the technology to catch up. Worked at CSC, EY, PwC, HSBC, BP, Vocal Link, MasterCard, UK government, Australia government, US government. While working out, we can make the internet protocol better and more secure. My goodness. As we get more into this, look what it also says. Well summarized, the idea and inception was in 1997, stemmed from security, had a concern with the fundamental insecure architecture of the internet. There was a better way to create a secure internet, had to wait patiently for 20 years, security career for Satoshi in 2008. Okay, worth pointing out. So, of course, he has all these references. I'm not going to get to all of them, right? But the last one I saw here was really, really interesting. Like it says QNT equals the future. But look what it says. 2013, moving from the UK government to Australian government, established the blockchain ISO standard TC307 2015, light TCP/IP. This was the right way to create a common framework for interoperable and secure blockchain networks. 57 countries now work on this standard. And get this, as we jump into it, he, of course, introduced the UK government to blockchain in 2008. So again, remember those interviews? If you're new to this, you didn't see it, but there's interviews with Gilbert Verdian stating that, he introduced this to the UK government saying, hey, there's this new thing, like, I think it's worth looking into. And it's amazing to see how this all blossomed. All right. So look at this. This is a citation from Quant Papa on his old account before it got banned on X. Did you know Gilbert Verdian, CEO of Quant, really educated, British intelligence? And look at this. MI5 security service, MI6 secret intelligence service. I mean, if you're in the James Bond movies, 007 works for who? MI6. And then this other one, GCHQ, Government Communications Headquarters. And like you see here, overledger, the first blockchain operating system that facilitates the developments of multi-chain applications. And again, Gilbert has held very senior roles in key government sectors. And check this out. This gets really good as well because you got to hear this. So on the last screen, GCHQ, remember this part. Seriously, remember this part. We're going to play this. This is Raw Paul. Listen to this. This ages well. We'll come right back. Here we go.
Tell me more. I said, and I think the US government and the UK government invented it, which is the NSA and the GCHQ in the UK, who are the two world centers of cryptography. Because even how the white paper's written, it's
you think they're transatlantic?
Yes. I always have. And I asked the Department of Defense, they said, yeah, we've considered that too. They've seeded
it was
experiments.
Official, or it was just people from that went rogue?
I don't think it's necessarily a rogueness. I think like Google have like Google X, where they do tons of experiments, right? They know that one of the esoteric risks for the entire Western system is the issue of money. So there's probably groups of people who are given things to try. And if you can seed a new system, maybe they tried 100 of these and just one succeeded. We don't know. But it would make sense because that's what they do, this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's what they do, this kind of stuff. Think about that. So jump more into this. Gets a little bit better in regards to all of this in this outline. Let's take you over to here. And what we have here is also worth sharing. What do you see? You see here on the screenshot about this whole thing called Sydney Plenary, April 2017. European Commission. I know it's a little bit blurry. ISO TC 307. And what do you see on the bottom? Blockchain and electronic distributed ledger technologies. Okay. What else? Well, what you also see is another interesting thing. And that is this right here, which also gets really good. And here it is. European Central Bank, the Euro system, who you see sitting, right there with that panel, you see Gilbert Verdian, Quant Network, sitting with, some of these people, like one from the London Stock Exchange, another one from Bank of Italy, another one from Bank of Lithuania. All worth pointing out. Absolutely. Getting more into the outline. Quant's old name, Remit. Look what it says in regards to the European Commission. Gilbert Verdian, his connections, and of course, 2009, introduced UK government to Bitcoin and blockchain, did economic policy assessment. 2015, founded Remit/Quant to focus on blockchain for enterprise and government. And of course, the whole, the rest is history. And of course, what you see here about the whole thing of inviting institutions, banks, and fintechs to attend what? Upcoming UK finance workshop on RLN. That's literally coming up. And I'll do a separate deep dive about this, but I don't want to make this whole outline 2 or 3 hours. Find out how programmability and tokenized commercial bank money can be used to build new innovative payment flows, and how to experiment with the live infrastructure with your use cases. I was talking to Channing years ago, and I said, Channing, all my life, even when I was younger, back in my 20s, I was like, I want to invest in something like that would be the new era for banking and whatnot. This is obviously the answer. And it's, I don't just cover QNT, there's other ones too. But it seems like anything that's really, really tied to this new system with ISOs and so on, that's where it's at. And of course, this person on the bottom, RLN, Mike Zahetmeyer, partner of EY Capital Markets. How many times have we seen Gilbert Verdian cite EY? And like he says, thrilled to announce that we'll be collaborating with UK Finance on May 16th to host Innovators Day workshop. Now, there's another particular one coming up with a guy from Citi, and that was, just a different reference, but still definitely worth pointing out. Okay, as we jump more into this, remember how I mentioned the whole thing of pay attention to Lara Verdian? Yeah, look at this. This gets really interesting because, like it says, on July 26th of 2010, she had an appointment. All right, she was appointed on, I should say. And what's it say on the very bottom? Neo Corporation Pty Limited, appointed on that same date. That's extremely interesting. Okay, so what in the world is that? Well, we could put two and two together based off of the finding. Another thing, Neo Corporation. We know that, Gilbert Verdian is a huge fan, apparently, of the Matrix. And as you see here, you have, total number of one appointments. And what does it show on the bottom? You see Corporations Act 2001, ASIC Act 2001. And again, all these references back to Australia and some of these, particular ones appointed on the 26th of July 2010. So, I mean, I could put two together. Neo Corporation Pty Limited. And look at this as well, because remember we mentioned the whole thing about uber elite hackers. Well, thank you, Mike Rosiette, for publishing this piece of history. Back to the whole thing, and back to the whole thing of elite, also known as 311 or 3133T, or for many of you guys that are gamers, 1337 or 31137, right? Like we say, elite. So now that we have upgraded our Docker image, we can run the gateway as we would normally. Look what it shows on the bottom: overledger -network gateway, and you see how it all comes together. And look at that, even some of the coding, 11337, and bottom reference, Quant Network overledger network gateway. My goodness. All right, here's another one. This is from Committed to Connecting the World, ITU SDG Digital. Look what it says in regards to Gilbert, and then back to the whole thing about him having these appointments, and Cisco, NSW Health, Deputy CTO at HM Treasury. I mean, on and on. But more importantly, this is why I'm mainly sharing this one with you guys. He was also the CTO at UKFI, responsible for rapidly establishing the agency during the financial crisis to take ownership of what? 350 billion pounds worth of toxic assets from the banks. I mean, people say, oh, he's never going to handle that much money. He already handled a lot of money. He's already been there. He's already done that. All right. I let the cat out of the bag a while ago with the other discovery. So I don't really think I'm going to get too much trouble for this. So it was the whole thing of that discovery of Trudeau. I don't know if you guys seen that deep dive video. If you haven't, you can go back to, I believe it was part 4, I want to say, was the military update, right? So on this one, another reference. Here's Go Verify. A lot of you guys know about Go Verify, but like it says, fighting fraud by providing a new way to verify the phone calls, emails, texts, and letters you receive are from the organizations they say they're from. And then look at this, Sentinel, for crying out loud. Sentinel discovers new businesses or business insights by linking machine activity to human behavior. And then bottom left says salience. So again, in the Matrix, we know the whole thing about the Sentinels. Remember how I told you to pay attention to that part? Exactly. And look at this. From, I believe, Trudeau, which, you have to go on the Wayback Time Machine to do all this stuff. Sentinel, Go Verify, Salience AI. Again, the same color coordination. Of course, I have more, because if I didn't, that would be fluff, and I don't really make things too fluffy. You get fluff everywhere else, Anyway, Trudera, top left, quant network symbol. Trudera using AI to make business sense. But more importantly, do you recognize that building? If you ever went to New York, you would. I haven't been to New York yet. I have a cousin who lives there, but I'm very familiar with the geography. I know about, a decent amount compared to the average person. But, again, the Rockefellers, right? So Rockefeller Plaza is basically that building. The Rockefeller building, I should say, not Rockefeller Place. As we get more into this, look at this. Salience is the world's first cyber AI powered by Sentinel. Again, back to all this Matrix reference. Salience learns and understands what is normal in your enterprise. More importantly, finding the unknown unknowns that traditional security tools can't detect. Find out how Salience can protect your organization. Go to salience.ai. Back to this whole thing of we are on a mission to bring intelligent AI to enterprise. And get further into it, that is the Rockefeller building. And as we get even more into it, look what happens. These tweets are protected. Salience. It's kind of like locked up. They don't follow a lot of people. And another reference. What's going on here? And boom to this. So when we get into this, remember how I let the cat out of the bag with this? Trudera top left, Quant logo, Salience, the world's first cyber AI, using AI to obtain cyber superiority. Only for military and government agents. See, so you could say this is another military update, if you will. But what's really interesting here is, again, this whole thing of trying to go to like remit.com. And when you go there, creating new fintech products on top of Quant Overledger, creating the first starting with Overledger operating system, the blockchain operating system. Overledger is a platform to create next generation multi-chain applications. And then we get more into it. If you type in sentinel.io, well, you see, for example, it kind of takes you over to here, and it gets really interesting once again, because things like this pop up. Sentinel, big data, and talks about unified technology. We talk about a unified ledger, for crying out loud. And look what it says. Use the power of big data to truly understand and predict the behavior and operations of your state. Now, the part about predictive, don't forget that part either if you're taking notes. To get more into this, we're almost done, by the way. Go to Salience AI on the Wayback Time Machine, and then all of a sudden I'm kind of hitting a block. This content is password protected. To view it, please enter your password below. So somebody ahead of some of us that are doing this stuff. I wonder why. I mean, that's a rhetorical question. And as we get more into it, here's what gets extremely interesting. Let's blow this up. What do you see on the bottom middle? You see Sydney, Australia. And then on the left, you see London, as in the UK and so on. And the recent post, back to Trudera, joins NVIDIA's Inception program. Interesting. Okay. This isn't Jasmine outline, but, even with Junction, they got the whole thing with NVIDIA. And, it's like, that's another thing in itself. But anyway, this is Quant outline. But again, Trudera joins NVIDIA. So you could pretty much say Quant joins NVIDIA. Extremely interesting. Again, I hope I'm not violating some NDA. It's just a discovery that anybody could actually technically search. Just uncovering some stuff. I hope I'm not getting in trouble here. But Sentinel. Here is a capture. This one kind of slipped through the cracks of not having the password. It is what it is, right? All right. As you go into it, make business sense. Sentinel discovers new business insights by linking machine activity to human behavior. Clearly New York City. And what does it say? Sentinel is a platform that measures the granular activity of your users, systems, and applications and augments it with business data to discover new efficiencies and business benefits. Remember some of this because it's going to get really interesting as we get to the last particular slides, because it says in Agile World, we are helping IT meet and exceed business needs while discovering value and efficiencies previously unknown to them. Basically, almost the same wording as what you saw from when it was called Neo back in 2001. And what do you see? Economic IT industry. And more importantly, it's going to zoom a little bit further out. Consumerization, demand on IT, shadow it. People talk about shadow governments, but interesting anyway. Mergers, acquisitions, current environment. And like it says, Sentinel, back to that Matrix reference, can achieve the following for your organization. And then boom, look at this. Smart transformation. I'll blow this up a little bit more. Sorry about that. What does it say? Smart transformation using Sentinel to make data-driven approach to transformation, understanding of the environment and the landscape, complete real-time inventory of all the IT components and how they interrelate, discover all of the logical configuration items, map of connections between systems, full impact analysis for any change to the IT environment, baseline usage and cost of the environment. And of course, like it says, enterprise value monitoring. I don't want to get into all that. But again, Cyber Sentinel. Interesting. And more importantly, here's your icing on the cake. Sentinel was built by Trudera. And again, the Quant logo. So interesting. And then again, at the bottom, 2 offices, UK and Europe, and Australia and Asia Pacific. And boom, you see that. I mean, I could put 2 and 2 together and realize Quant Network all the way because it's a real thing. So extremely interesting to share that. And again, since we were talking about the whole thing of Rockefellers, just in case you forgot or not aware of it, April 10th, 2019, Guy Dietrich joins Quant Network's board of directors. Why is that important? Because as you see right here, it says plain as day, what? Rockefeller. Guy Dietrich, managing director of Rockefeller Capital, is joining the Quant Network. At least he already did, supporting the company's expansion to the U.S. effective today. There's your darn United States plug. People say that, it's more than Gilbert Verdian in regards to the U.S. plug. Of course it is, right? But here's our little clues. Guy Dietrich, managing director of Rockefeller Capital Management in New York. Back to the whole thing of, Larry Fink talking about capital markets, those ecosystems. This is probably the mother lode of those ecosystems. The Rockefellers, I mean, come on. They're a name brand when it comes to the richest people in the world. But prior to joining Rockefeller, he led the largest private wealth management practice for Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney, and Silicon Valley. He's a graduate of Dartmouth. And look at this. I saw some people saying that, there's no other connections. Well, look at this. He was also at Harvard University Advanced Leadership Institute. He was on the advisory board to Stanford University Institute of Economic Policy Research. And he's delighted to be part of the board. Yeah, I'm sure he is, because he realizes the bigger picture. All right, here's another bombshell, if you want to call it that. All right, the obsession over the matrix. Check this out. What is this? Look at this screenshot. Project Neo, and anybody could Google this. This is not me, giving something that's like I'm not supposed to give. So I'm not getting too much trouble here. Project Neo, gaining economic insights with AI. Boom, there's your boiler mash to stick in the stew. All right. AI and novel data. Macroeconomic statistics are often highly aggregated. Maybe I could blow this up a little bit more. Hold on. Yeah, I can. So highly aggregated. Okay. And realized with delay reducing the information available to policymakers. Again, all this reference to policymaking. And then as you see here, timely and granular. Again, that's interesting because we just mentioned it from some of these other things, connecting Sentinel and all this stuff. And again, machine learning. I know it's kind of blurry. Interesting. But you may be wondering, well, so what? So what that just says Project Neo. That's a John's coincidence. All right, you ready for it? Here we go. Boom. Bottom left of the poster, BIS, Bank of International Settlements. That is huge. All right. If you're going to go over to the BIS, look what's mentioned here real quick. I'll show you another thing at the top. Project Neo, gaining new economic insights with AI and novel data sources. Again, from the Bank of International Settlements. And is it this year? Because some of you guys are like, oh, you're just quoting stuff from the past. Well, past, present, future. Yeah, look at this. Not that long ago, right? March 21st, 2024. And as you see, plain as day, Project Neo is an innovative in that it aims to work with unique data from the national private companies. It will combine this information with typical macro financial data sets, targeting a broad range of official statistics. At the same time, Project Neo will quantify, interesting how they say it like that, the relevance of using disaggregated microdata to understand and forecast macroeconomic indicators. The project will benefit from exploring the synergy between economists and data engineers and use machine learning and predictive modeling. Geez, I wonder what one that would be. Maybe Salience, maybe the whole thing, obviously, with the Sentinel and Trudera and all this stuff that's top secret stuff. The project will initially work with data from Switzerland, but the prototype and learning experience will be applicable to any other country. So there you go. You guys want to see the whole thing of a unified ledger or universal ledger? And we have all this talk about the RLN. Hey, I could put 2 and 2 together. This is absolutely massive. And as we get more into this, here is a citation from the one and only Quant Network, May 7, 2024. And interesting how this also is around that same time, right? Just a few months after what you saw from the BIS. And what do you see? Making CBDCs work for offline payments. Back to the whole thing of Augustine Carstens and the Finternet reference. I haven't showed this part with you. Maybe I have on a live show. I haven't done some live shows in a while. Looking forward to doing that again. But why offline payments are integral to CBDCs. Why is this important? Says we know that central banks are exploring the creation of CBDC. However, one key design feature is the ability to conduct secure point-to-point offline transactions. An offline capability for CBDCs as digital cash can create a resilient payment system for consumers and businesses to transact in any situation. However, without the correct technology in place, banks risk putting themselves at risk of digital counterfeiting. By implementing an offline solution for CBDCs, banks can work towards building a safe, trusted payment system for both businesses and users alike. Quant has experience trialing this. During our work on Project Rosalind, the Bank of England's experiment into a retail CBDC, one of the project requirements was to test how a CBDC would work offline. We worked with a third-party provider that allowed us to test their card for offline payments to prove that offline payments would be possible. Period. Absolutely. And then this gets really, really good as well. 2 more slides left and we're wrapping it up. What do you see here? You see Augustine Carstens quoted from Quant, and it says from his own quotation that they shared, a unified programmable ledger could unleash an explosion of innovation in payments and money comparable to the rival of the smartphone, according to BIS General Manager Augustine Carstens. And like it says, BIS chief floats unified programmable ledger to turbocharge payments. Think about that. And here's the icing on the cake, because he did mention the whole thing of, it'd be similar to like the explosion of the smartphone. I did say that Quant would be the most expensive token in history, and I stand by that. I know there's a lot of people going to laugh, but you want to know something? The way I look at it is like this. Not to compare myself to Noah, for crying out loud, but a lot of people laughed at Noah about the rain coming, that the worldwide flood was going to happen. No pun intended. That was a lot of on-demand liquidity, was it not? You get where I'm going with that. Anyway, check this out. Here is the moment you've been waiting for, because look what it says. Talks about the peak of the smartphone era. So we kind of somewhat been there, but again, understand some of these statements. You guys want to know about catching some of the bottom before the bull run happens. Well, look at this, from 2008 to 2010 and all the way up to 2015. Look at that. The smartphone era went on its own version of a bull run, did it not? Absolutely did. We are invested into Quant with this thing called QNT. How fortunate are we? 14.88 million tokens. Less of a supply than Bitcoin with 21 million. That is definitely worth pointing out. And in my opinion, we talk about the accumulation phase and these 4-year cycles. I am not going to catch QNT when it gets to all-time highs. I already caught it at some of these particular prices. Some of you guys took advantage of the $55 and so on, and you didn't listen to the FUD, or maybe you listened to a little bit and learn from it. But if anything, you recognize the opportunity for QNT moving forward. Again, accumulation phase and so on. Look it up. Look at 4-year cycles. There's more than enough information out there to get into the weeds of that. This has already been more than a deep dive, but based off of some of these statements, how we put it all together, my opinion, personally, it's just my opinion. I'm welcome to have an opinion. Some people think that content creators are not allowed to have opinions. I think that's absolutely false, and that's just basically being rude. It's like this. QNT, I stand by it 100%. This is part 6. Be the most expensive token in history. These people are still telling you that this thing is going to go to zero. Ask yourself this. What kind of real research are they providing you? And we'll just leave it at that. God bless those people. We need to live in a society moving forward where people can agree to disagree instead of all this hate. It's ridiculous. So with that said, thank you so much for listening to this particular deep dive. Once again, part 6 of this ongoing series of QNT. Will it be the most expensive token in history? If you haven't seen the other videos, you can go into the video section catalog for this channel. You owe it to yourself if you're really serious about either getting into QNT or learning more about QNT. So with that said, thanks again for listening to the outline. If you listen to the end of this outline, simply do me a favor and type this into the comments, and that is Matrix. And I'll know that you listen to the entire outline. Thanks again. We'll see you on the next one.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. Say goodbye to complicated setups and hello to Decent Wallet, the hassle-free solution to your digital currency needs. With just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.